from the Bobrink family. We just want to send you a message and greeting of peace in this massive time of uncertainty. May God be with you and give you peace and good health and keep you safe. And know that we love each and every one of you and hope that God is with you. And remember, God is bigger than the boogeyman. God is bigger than this craziness that's going on, and He will get us through this. May you know that we love you and we miss you and can't wait to get back to church.
We're just outside chilling with this beautiful day that God has given us today and enjoying nature. I want to say a special thanks for everyone who sent their prayers my way during my surgery. I am healing very well and look forward to the time when we can all get together and see each other in church. Take care. Love you all. Stay peace to you, and stay healthy. Take care of yourselves.
Hi, everybody. Peace to you. We're doing fine. We're surrounded by God's gift outside of nature, and we're filled on the inside with our faith and our hope. We look forward to seeing you again. Peace.
Bye now.
Jesus prays in Gethsemane. Then Jesus went with them to a place called Gethsemane, and he said to his disciples, "Sit here while I go over there and pray." He took with him Peter and the 2 sons of Zebedee, and began to be grieved and agitated. Then he said to them, "I am deeply grieved, even to death. Remain here and stay awake with me." And going a little farther, he threw himself on the ground and prayed, "My Father, if it is possible, let this cup pass from me, yet not what I want, but what you want." Then he came to the disciples and found them sleeping, and he said to them, "So, could you not stay awake with me 1 hour? Stay awake and pray, that you may not come into the time of trial. The spirit indeed is willing, but the flesh is weak." Again he went away for a second time and prayed, "My Father, if this cannot pass unless I drink it, your will be done." Again he came and found them sleeping, for their eyes were heavy. So leaving them again, he went away and prayed for a third time, saying the same words. Then he came to the disciples and said to them, "Are you still sleeping and taking your rest? See, the hour is at hand, and the Son of Man is betrayed into the hands of sinners. Get up, let us be going. See, my betrayer is at hand."
While he was still speaking, Judas, one of the 12, arrived. With him was a large crowd with swords and clubs, from the chief priest and the elders of the people. Now the betrayer had given them a sign, saying, "The one I will kiss is Jesus. Arrest him." At once Judas came up to Jesus and said, "Greetings, Rabbi," and kissed him. Jesus said to him, "Friend, do what you are here to do." Then they came and laid hands on Jesus and arrested him. Suddenly, one of those with Jesus put his hand on his sword, drew it, and struck the slave of the high priest, cutting off his ear. Then Jesus said to him, "Put your sword back into its place, for all who take the sword will perish by the sword. Do you think that I cannot appeal to my Father, and he will at once send me more than 12 legions of angels? But how then would the scriptures be fulfilled, which say it must happen in this way?" At that hour Jesus said to the crowds, "Have you come out with swords and clubs to arrest me, as though I were a bandit? Day after day I sat in the temple teaching, and you did not arrest me. But all this has taken place, so that the scriptures of the prophets might be fulfilled." Then all the disciples deserted him and fled. Those who arrested Jesus took him to Caiaphas the high priest, in whose house the scribes and elders had gathered. But Peter was following him at a distance, as far as the courtyard of the high priest. And going inside, he sat with the guards in order to see how this would end. Now the chief priest and the whole council were looking for false testimony against Jesus, so that they might put him to death. But they found none, though many false witnesses came forward. At last, 2 came forward and said, "This fellow said, 'I am able to destroy the temple of God and build it in 3 days.'" The high priest stood up and said, "Have you no answer? What is it that they testify against you?" But Jesus was silent. Then the high priest said to him, "I put you under oath before the living God. Tell us if you are the Messiah, the Son of God." Jesus said to him, "You have said so, but I tell you from now on you will see the Son of Man seated at the right hand of power and coming into the clouds of heaven." Then the high priest tore his clothes and said, "He has blasphemed. Why do we still need witnesses? You have heard his testimony. You have heard his blasphemy. What is your verdict?" They answered, "He deserves death." Then they spat on his face and struck him, and some slapped him, saying, "Prophesy to us, you Messiah. Who is it that struck you?" So the soldiers, their officer, and the Jewish police arrested Jesus and bound him. First they took him to Annas, who was the father-in-law of Caiaphas the high priest that year. Caiaphas was the one who had advised the Jews that it was better to have one person die for the people. Simon Peter and another disciple followed Jesus. Since that disciple was known to the high priest, he went with Jesus into the courtyard of the high priest. But Peter was standing outside the gate. So the other disciple, who was known to the high priest, went out, spoke to the woman who guarded the gate, and brought Peter in. And the woman said to Peter, "You are not also one of the man's disciples, are you?" And he said, "I am not." Now the slaves and the police had made a charcoal fire, because it was cold, and they were also standing around it and warming themselves. And Peter was standing with them and warming himself. Now Peter was standing and warming himself, and they asked him, "You are not also one of his disciples, are you?" He denied it and said, "I am not." One of the slaves of the high priest, a relative of the man whose ear Peter had cut off, asked, "Did I not see you in the garden with him?" And again Peter denied it, and at that moment the cock crowed.
The night that Jesus was betrayed, he took bread with his disciples. He celebrated the Passover meal. They would have remembered the story of the Passover, which is about being ready. The ancient Israelites, as they were being led out of slavery in Egypt, they were to be ready to have their shoes on their feet, their staff in their hand, and ready to walk. The Passover reminds us, as the Last Supper with Jesus' disciples reminds us, that we are to be ready. We don't know what we're facing up ahead, but we know we're called to be ready. Some things that help us be ready is a life of faithful prayer. As we've been learning through our study of the walk this Lenten season, we're invited to pray 5 times a day, in the morning, in the evening, at every meal. Our prayer life helps us to be ready. As you're talking with people, ask them, how can I pray for you? And then pray with them, whether you're on the phone or you're on a Zoom call or however you're communicating with people these days. Again, our prayer life is important for us to be ready for whatever we face up ahead. So now as we hear this music for the offering, as we offer ourselves to God, as we prepare our gifts to send in for the ministry of the church, let us be ready.